In 1967, French cinema produced a film that blurred the line between reality and desire, respectability and repression. Belle de Jour, directed by Louis Buñuel, was not just another European art film. It was a quiet revolution dressed in elegance. It spoke softly, but every frame cut deep. Beneath its polished surfaces, it questioned everything that polite society pretended to understand: marriage, morality, and the secret lives we build behind closed doors. At the center of this quiet storm stood Catherine Deneuve, her beauty frozen in the calm perfection of restraint. Deneuve did not simply play a character, she embodied contradiction. A woman defined by grace, yet haunted by longing. Her eyes told a story of control and confusion, a portrait of a person caught between what the world demands and what the heart refuses to forget. Buñuel, the master surrealist, crafted Belle de Jour like a dream observed through glass. It begins in daylight among routines and order, but somewhere between the ticking of a clock and the silence of a dinner table, reality begins to shift. What unfolds is not a scandal, but a study of repression, of fantasy, of how easily the mind escapes into illusion when the soul feels confined. Séverine Cerisy, a young and beautiful housewife, is unable to share physical intimacy with her husband, Dr. Pierre Cerisy, despite their love for each other. Her sexual life is restricted to elaborate fantasies involving domination, sadomasochism, and bondage. Although frustrated by his wife's frigidity toward him, he respects her wishes. While visiting a ski resort, they meet two friends, Henri Husson and René. Séverine does not like Husson's manner and the way he looks at her. Back in Paris, Séverine meets up with René and learns that a common friend, Henriette, now works at a brothel. At her home, Séverine receives roses from Husson and is unsettled by the gesture. At the tennis courts, she meets Husson, and they discuss Henriette and houses of pleasure. Husson mentions a high-class brothel to Séverine at 11 Cité Jean de Saumur. He also confesses his desire for her, but Séverine rejects his advances. Haunted by childhood memories, including one involving a man who appears to touch her inappropriately, Séverine goes to the high-class brothel, which is run by Madame Anaïs, who names her Belle de Jour. That afternoon, Séverine services her first client. Reluctant at first, she responds to the firm hand of Madame Anaïs and has sex with the stranger. After staying away for a week, Séverine returns to the brothel and begins working from 2 to 5 o'clock each day, returning to her unsuspecting husband in the evenings. One day, Husson comes to visit her at home, but Séverine refuses to see him. Still, she fantasizes about having sex with him in her husband's presence. At the same time, Severine's physical relationship with her husband is improving, and she begins having sex with him. Séverine becomes involved with a young criminal, Marcel, who offers her the kind of thrills and excitement of her fantasies. One day, Husson visits the brothel and discovers Séverine, who asks him not to tell her husband about her secret life. He agrees and rejects her services, stating he is no longer attracted to her. Séverine decides to leave the brothel, with Madame Anaïs' blessing, as she believes it is due to Marcel becoming increasingly jealous and demanding. After one of his associates follows Séverine to her home, Marcel visits her and threatens to reveal her secret to her husband. Séverine pleads with him to leave, which he does, referring to her husband as the obstacle. Marcel waits downstairs for Pierre to return home and shoots him 3 times. Marcel then flees but is shot dead by police. Séverine's husband survives but is left in a coma. The police are unable to find a motive for the attempted murder. Sometime later, Séverine is at home taking care of Pierre, who is now paralyzed, blind, and in a wheelchair. Husson visits Pierre to tell him the truth about his wife's secret life. She does not try to stop him. After Husson leaves, Séverine returns to see Pierre crying. In an ambiguous ending, which is hinted to be another of her fantasies, Pierre then gets out of the wheelchair, pours himself a drink, and discusses holiday plans with Severine. When the film first premiered, it startled audiences, not because of what it showed, but because of what it implied. In 1967, the world was still learning how to talk about identity and selfhood, especially for women. Buñuel offered no explanations, only reflections. His lens didn't judge or moralize, it simply watched. Calm, detached, merciless. And in that distance, he found truth. Many viewers didn't know what to make of it. Some critics called it immoral, others labeled it genius. Countries debated whether it was art or provocation. But the controversy only proved Buñuel's point, that society fears introspection more than sin. Belle de Jour wasn't designed to shock, it was designed to reveal, to expose how people live two lives, one that follows the rules and another that dreams of breaking them. Catherine Deneuve became the face of that duality, the perfect emblem of refinement masking something unknowable. Her stillness became iconic, her silence magnetic. She was not the voice of rebellion, but its mirror. Behind her composure, Buñuel painted the quiet ache of a generation torn between liberation and decorum. What made Belle de Jour extraordinary was how ordinary it looked. No surreal sets, no dramatic confrontations, only the gentle rhythm of a life interrupted by imagination. But that simplicity made its themes more dangerous. Every gesture, every pause, every polite smile hit a fracture. It invited the audience not to look at the character, but at themselves, at their own secret contradictions, their hidden longings. Buñuel's genius lay in his ambiguity. He never explained whether what we saw was real or imagined, whether fantasy was a form of escape or survival. The film refused to tell us what to think, and that refusal became its power. In that ambiguity, Belle de Jour transcended scandal. It became poetry, cold, deliberate, and mercilessly human. Over the decades, the film's reputation only grew. What was once provocative became prophetic. Scholars found layers of symbolism: the clock, the cats, the sound of footsteps echoing down sterile hallways. Each detail felt intentional, yet ungraspable, like pieces of a puzzle designed to remind us that understanding is an illusion. Catherine Deneuve herself would later say that she never fully understood the film, and that perhaps was the point. Belle de Jour is not meant to be understood. It's meant to be felt. It speaks the language of repression, where words fail and silence becomes confession. Today, nearly 6 decades later, Belle de Jour feels even more relevant. It predicted the modern dilemma of appearance, how the image we project to the world often hides the quiet chaos within. In the age of curation and performance, Buñuel's story of dual existence feels eerily familiar. Belle de Jour has inspired filmmakers, artists, and thinkers for generations. It redefined the boundaries of what cinema could say without ever raising its voice. Its beauty is deceptive, its calmness disarming. It invites judgment, but it withholds truth. Like all great works of art, it leaves you questioning what you believe about human nature and what you fear within yourself. And when the credits roll, silence lingers. You realize that Buñuel never gave you answers, only reflections. You saw elegance, but beneath it, unease. You saw order, but beneath it, the tremor of rebellion. That is the quiet brilliance of Belle de Jour. It doesn't demand understanding. It demands honesty. It asks how much of our morality is performance and how much of our civility is built on secrets we pretend not to see. Louis Buñuel was not trying to scandalize. He was trying to awaken. And Catherine Deneuve, in her timeless restraint, became the vessel of that awakening. Together, they created a film that feels like a dream you can't fully recall, but can never forget. In the end, Belle de Jour remains not just a film, but a riddle, a meditation on what it means to live between two selves, between daylight and desire, between what we show and what we hide. It's a masterpiece that whispers rather than shouts, that reveals rather than explains. And as the final image fades, one truth remains, that the deepest mysteries of human nature are not found in darkness, but in the light we fear to look at too closely.